A little bit about how long you've been waiting in line and what you think about all of this.
We have been in line since 5:30 this morning. We drove up to Atlanta from South Georgia. We left about 3 o'clock this morning. Congress needs to get to work, get it done. The American people don't deserve this. TSA needs to get paid. This is ridiculous.
And, of course, this is all happening because, as you just mentioned, TSA workers, they're getting $0 paychecks right now. And that's part of the reason why that ICE agents are now here helping them out, trying to make these lines shorter. What do you think about that?
I'm glad to see them here.
Glad to see it. Well, thank you so much. We hope
Get
you
up at
make your
1.
flight.
And he's like, what are you, crazy, Dad? So I said, nope, got to get up. And we were one of the first ones here.
We were really scared. We didn't want to be waiting in line for 2 hours. So I'd rather be here early, get in the front of the line.
As we enter week 3 of the partial government shutdown, TSA agents are still without pay, some calling out. More than 400 have quit.
TSA pre-check on your boarding pass.
Travelers now being met with busier airports.
Boarding pass, IDs out.
I heard that people were standing in line for like 4 hours and still missing their flight, so I was like, that's not going to be me.
Touchless pre-check in the center.
At one point, the line reached all the way back to the garage at Terminal A East.
With respect, if you're doing this in 24 hours, how well thought out could it possibly be?
Again, ICE has been at airports across the country for a long time. It's just expanding those things. Look, how much of a plan does it mean to guard an exit to make sure no one comes through that exit? We're talking about security options, and these officers are well trained in security, and they're well trained in identification. And look, we're going to do what we can to help TSA move those people through the line.
It's the reason why we are in a DHS shutdown right now, because Republicans have refused to agree to the type of bold, transformative, meaningful, and dramatic reforms we are demanding in order for the Department of Homeland Security funding bill to move forward. And I won't go through all of the demands, much of which we've talked about repeatedly in the public, but one of those demands is keep ICE out of sensitive locations. And we've defined that as schools, houses of worship, hospitals, and polling sites. We want an explicit prohibition that ICE can go nowhere near any polling sites in the United States of America. It's one of our...
All right, folks. Anybody else feel like Trump always finds a way to get things done, and the Democrats are always looking for ways to undo? Let's get into it, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, as you all watch this broadcast. It's time for Pop and Politics. I'm KJ. Let me introduce you to my co-host. Of course, we have Nicole Bennett.
Hey, y'all.
And Shelly E.
Hi, everybody.
We have a lot to cover tonight, folks. So before we light this fire, do your part. Tap that thumbs up. That helps to get this video out in front of a wider audience, folks. Tells YouTube to push this out. So please hit that like button and subscribe. Also, turn on your notifications. We are live here on YouTube. If you're on the go, you can catch us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify under the name Pop and Politics. We love our chat. We shout out every super chat. I think we already have a super chat. Is that right, Shelly?
I think we do. Producers, do we have the super chat there? We do. We have Kung Fu CJ. Thank you for your $2 super chat. He says, hello all. Shelly better cuss someone out today. All right. It's all Monday, right. So I might be there. It's Monday.
All right. Thank you so much. Absolutely. Yes, that's the best way to get your voice heard in the conversation, and we appreciate the support. Folks, we are not just a podcast. This is a movement of God-fearing, truth-seeking, America-loving people that value freedom. Stand with us and subscribe so we can amplify this rallying call for freedom. All right, folks, as you come in, there's a little arrow that says share underneath this video. Once you click on that, that can connect you right to your social media. We love for you to share this video, post it to your social media, send it in an email. You'll see a little box, a little envelope where you can send it via email. You can send it via text. Please, that's a great way to get this video out in front of a wider audience. Also, we've got merch. Nicole, you want to talk about our merch?
I do. I have merch on. You can't
Yes.
see because I'm covered up by the banner, but I actually have merch on today. It's the Unapologetically American t-shirt. I'm not going to break out the give me my money back until tax day. I figure that's the appropriate time for the breaking out of that shirt. But everybody should have some merch. It's a great way to support our channel. It's also a really good way to wear your politics that's not really offensive to other people. I think other people can find some commonality in this. It may start a conversation, and you never know who might be closet conservative. You never know. There are lots of conservative Democrats out there too. Don't let the mainstream media fool you. Get your shirts, wear your merch, and represent us well. When you do, send us a picture so we can post you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you, folks. All right, let's get into this, the video at the top of the show. So that latest breaking news, folks, is a major win, I would say, for President Trump, and a direct slap at the Democrats' reckless partial shutdown of the DHS. So it's now been dragging on into its 6th week since February. TSA officers have been forced to work without pay, leading to massive resignations. Over 366 people reported quit. Skyrocketing call-out rates. That's at 11.8% just since Sunday. It's the highest ever. And hours-long security lines at major airports, right at spring break. This is everybody's leaving for spring break, and they are halted at the airports. Okay, chaos at checkpoints nationwide. Exactly what the radical left games produced when they hold funding hostage over immigration demands. All right, so I want to start with you, Nicole. What do you think about what we saw and what, as you call Timu Obama, Hakeem Jeffries had to say about it?
Listen, Hakeem Jeffries is probably one of the most prolific liars that American politics has ever known. He is so disingenuous. Everything he says has some kind of slant, some kind of tilt to it. You know, I'm even wondering if his name is really Hakeem Jeffries. Has anybody seen his birth certificate? I mean, I've had it with this dude. Listen, ICE is fully funded. This is not what this fight is about. If you listen carefully to what they say, and they've been saying it all weekend, and their talking points is, we don't want ICE in really private places, protected places, right? So yeah, hospitals, yeah, I could see that. You know, not going to argue that point. Schools, that's a whole horse of a different color. We could probably debate that. But polling places, oh, that's where I want ICE. I want ICE at every polling station in this nation. I want them at every airport. I want them at every train station. I want them at every bus stop, because if we're really going to cut the head off of this snake, we're going to have to take the fight to where the people are. I mean, I think we've all seen that viral video of the woman who got caught today. I mean, how dumb is she? Clearly she doesn't see TV, who was in San Francisco's airport, illegal, no documentation, and lying on the floor screaming and crying at the top of her lungs because she was caught by ICE. I mean, I don't know who didn't tell her that ICE was going to be at the airport. This is not your moment. And I think we need more of those moments to let these people know, self-deport. They're willing to fly you home or wherever else you want to go. This is your moment. Get out now before it gets worse. And Trump absolutely has won this battle with the Senate and the House. He really has. He gave them every opportunity, every single opportunity to pass something on their own. And when they did not, he made their worst nightmares come true. ICE at airports. Boy, you talk about a great deal for him. What a win.
Yeah. Shelley, what are your thoughts here?
Look, Americans have a lot of patience. Sometimes we have too much patience, especially for the wrong things. But one thing or a few things Americans don't tolerate well, they don't tolerate people just being treated unfairly, particularly at the leverage of the politicians. And they don't like people being not paid or not being paid for work that they actually commit. Americans don't have time for that. They don't tolerate that. ICE should be deployed wherever the need is, okay? They're getting paid. These politicians, most of them are Democrats, want to hold hostage this bill because of ICE and I think masks and whatever other foolishness that they don't want to pay people. Again, I'm advocating that anytime people are legitimately working and not paid in our government, neither should Congress get paid. No Congress or senator should receive a check as well. Zero. None of them. This is what we are paying for. This is like a big pothole, not having our airports, run smoothly. Like a big pothole, but we're paying for all this infrastructure and it never gets fixed. We pay too much in taxes for our airports to look like third world hoarding houses, basically. Like they're just hoarding people somewhere to house them in a third world country. It should not look like this. It should not be like this. These ICE agents, put them there. If they're going to move the people through, they can do the security checks. Fine. Get these people on flights that they have paid for to get where they're going.
Right. Yeah. And we're seeing, so these ICE officers have been deployed to at least 13 to 14 airports. So again, they're at Hartsfield Jackson in Atlanta, which we saw, the lines were all the way around, even out through the garage in Atlanta with people. LaGuardia in New York, JFK in New York, Houston, Chicago, O'Hare, Cleveland, Hopkins, New Orleans. The list goes on. They've been deployed at a lot of these airports, and they are, travelers are seeing them armed in tactical gear near checkpoints. But this is what Trump said he's got to, this is what I'm talking about. Trump is always trying to fix a problem. He provides solutions to these things. All right. He's to keep airports moving while Democrats refuse to fund DHS. This is what he's decided to do. It's classic Trump. No nonsense action to protect travel. And so this is what honestly, I got to say, this is what I voted for. I didn't think I would see this, DHS shut down like this, but he is on it. He's okay. You guys want to shut down? I got to try to find a way to fix this. And that's quintessential President Trump.
I really like the way that he kind of gave them enough rope to hang themselves, right? Because they kept trying to say, oh, the Republicans won't let us, only fund this thing or only fund that thing. And he goes, yeah, no problem. We'll put ICE in the airports. If he really, really, really wanted to dig down deep on them, the one airport he should put ICE in is Reagan at National Airport here, because this is where they all fly in and out of. He should put ICE there and not allow them to have priority check-in. Make them stand in those long lines and watch the hardworking men and women of ICE do their jobs. The American people have no beef with ICE, no beef with the National Guard. Every time I'm in DC, I see groups and more groups of guardsmen just kind of walking around patrolling. And you see people pulling over like, hey, giving them high fives and whatnot. American people have no grudge with the people who protect us. The grudge that we have is, much like Shelley was saying, is the people that we've elected to represent us who are not.
Absolutely.
I get it. I get that Democrats really want to protect their ability to cheat in elections. I get that. I completely understand that. However, the American people, as Shelley said, are sick of it. We don't like waiting in line. I agree with Shelley at the two things that she said Americans don't like. I would say number 3, Americans are not a waiting culture. We are not. We would microwave water if we could. It's just who we are as people. We don't wait. So waiting 3 hours for a flight to only miss said flight and have to be rescheduled on another flight, I'm talking about heads popping. But I love what's coming out of the White House. Democrats. This is their thing. They don't want to fund DHS. And it's not only on the TSA, but you look at the Coast Guard. All of our service members should be getting paid right off the top. CISA, for example, the people who keep our cybersecurity, they're not getting paid. And we need them more now than ever. What happened a month and a half ago when Verizon, quote unquote, went down? Verizon didn't went down. Verizon was attacked. Verizon was absolutely attacked. So what happens when the people who keep us safe work without pay and they can't pay their bills? The stress that puts on their families, the emotional stress that puts on them. This is a bad, bad situation. Senator Kennedy proposed a bill that said, as long as they're not getting paid, Congress shouldn't get paid.
Right.
A Democrat jumped up immediately and challenged it and then stormed out of the room, didn't even present his argument. At some point, the infighting among Democrats is going to resolve itself. Is it putting pressure on both sides to resolve things? Absolutely. But this is the Democrats' ball. What are they going to do with it?
Yeah. Well, like you said, honestly, the people the American people are just pawns in their schemes, in their march to power. And so if they have to, people, millions of thousands of people have to go without pay, or Americans have to stand in line. They don't care. They're going to let this go on for as long as they can. All right. But let me I want to change gears slightly a little bit. When you said Americans don't like to stand in line, made me think of a line in Yellowstone where they said Americans don't like to share land. I just got into Yellowstone, and is it you ladies watch that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just started watching it. I'm late to the party.
I'm late to it too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh my gosh. That was so
good.
funny. Kevin Costner, he said these they're out in Montana and he owns all this land. It's generations of the Duttons that own this land. Well, for some reason, these Asians come in and they like to take photos on the land, and they come in on buses and they're sightseeing, but it's not his property. And so this bus of Asian men and women came in and they said, it's not right for one person to own all this land. The land needs to be shared. And he said, one thing you don't know, Americans don't share land. I was like, oh my God. I love it.
Got a point. He's got a point. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry to get off track, but I thought that, oh my gosh, I laughed so hard when he said that. All right. We got some super chat.
Yeah, we have another super chat here. We have Tony. Thank you for your $5 super chat, Tony. Shelly E is right. Congress should not get paid, and they really should not be getting their own health care. I agree with you,
very
Tony.
true.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Thank you for that super chat. All right, everybody, you know what to do. If you have not done so, hit that like, share, and subscribe out there in our chat land. We need your super chats. We love your chats. We want to hear your comments. Also, remember, go to www.metroconservativemedia.com for your one-stop shopping. You can read articles. You can see things that we've posted and that we're talking about. Go ahead there right now. Subscribe at that site as well and shop until your heart is content.
All right. Well, speaking of changing gears, let's talk about this Truth Social tweet that President Trump sent out over the weekend. So former FBI director and special counsel Robert Mueller died on March 20th at the age of 81. Minutes after the news broke on the 21st, President Trump posted on Truth Social about it. Take a look. This is clip 1.
On a different topic, about a post by President Trump from yesterday responding to the death of former special counsel Robert Mueller. He posted this, quote, "Robert Mueller just died. Good. I'm glad he's dead. He can no longer hurt innocent people." Do you think it's appropriate for the President of the United States to celebrate the death of an American citizen, someone who's a Bronze Star, Purple Heart recipient and who served in Vietnam?
Kristen, I was with the President in the green room at Davos, and there was a video playing of what may have been an illegal raid on his home at Mar-a-Lago. They are going through his wife's wardrobe, and I watched the look in his eye, and I think that neither one of us can understand what has been done to the president and to his family.
But to the question of the president's post, I mean, Robert Mueller didn't order that raid. Is it appropriate for the president to celebrate the death of any American citizen,
again,
Mr. Secretary?
I think that given what has been done to President Trump and his family, it is impossible for either of us to understand what he has been through.
So you don't think that there's anything wrong with the post saying, good, Robert Mueller's dead?
Again, I think that we should all have a little empathy for what has been done to him and his family.
All right. Well, you all know what Robert Mueller was a part of. Russia. That kind of catapulted President Trump. I mean, that plagued him from the very beginning, that when he announced, and to this day, even after the whole Mueller, the Russiagate, I mean, this thing has plagued him from day one. Shelley, what are your thoughts on what he said?
Well, as usual, I'm for free speech, but I'm going to add this caveat. The right cannot go saying to anybody, it makes it harder for the right to say that people should not talk about Charlie Kirk, disgusting comments. I mean, comments that are unbelievable. It makes it harder for the right to say that those people should be censored, called out, whatever the case. All is fair in love and politics, I guess.
All right. Nicole, what are your thoughts?
Two things. One, even when he's not trying to look like a very wealthy man, Scott Bessent looks like he wipes his butt with $100 bills, doesn't he? He looks like what Richie Rich probably looks like. He cracks me up with that look on his face. And he's a very down-to-earth person. He can't help that he looks incredibly wealthy. But as far as President Trump is concerned, I know when you take a look at the totality of what Mueller has done to his family, Russia is just a small part of what this man has done. He didn't just go after Donald Trump. He went after every Trump. He went after Trump associates. He went after people who live next door to Trump. When I tell you the United States government came after this man and his family, his business associates, the children of his business associates with reckless abandon, they went after Charlie Kirk. When you hear Charlie screaming, well, God rest his soul, you heard Charlie screaming and hollering when Trump won the presidency again. He says one of the reasons why he was so excited that Trump won is so he didn't have to go to federal prison. So understand, the American public, for the most part, only knows, the bird's eye view. They don't know the minutia on the ground. And when I tell you the Trump family and their associates have spent millions of dollars keeping themselves and their children out of jail, simply because he's in the wrong party. This is what we mean when we say lawfare, not this foolishness with, Tish and all her relatives, not that kind of thing. But when they start coming after your children just because you were born in the wrong family, this was an outrageous attack on a former president of the United States. Outrageous attack. And it opened up the doors for other people to do it if they so chose. But I would say this. If I were advising the president, I would have asked him not to say anything, just to let it go by without comment. However, we all know who President Trump is. We all know that he's absolutely a New Yorker. Although he lives happily in Florida, he's absolutely a New Yorker, and he's not going to let this moment go by without at least acknowledging how hard this man came after his family and those he loves, and the people who work for him and the people that they loved. I mean, it's ridiculous what this man and his cohorts did. And, was it the better part of valor not to say anything? Probably, but he is who he is.
Yeah, he is. He is. Zero apologies. And he's not going to give fake sympathy. I mean, that's President Trump. When I first saw it, I was like, this isn't real. He didn't say that.
Oh, I knew he said it because it read like him. I could hear his voice in my head when I read it. I just feel like a lot of people don't know the horror that this family went through. I mean,
right. I agree. I agree. Like I said, when I first saw it, I didn't think he said it, but of course he did say it. And at first, when I was thinking, I was like, wow, that was kind of harsh. But then, you know what? I started thinking about all the things that the Democrats have said, not just about President Trump, but as someone said in the chat, about Charlie Kirk, about Republicans, about Black Republicans, same with Biden, the despicable things they have said about President Trump after his assassination. And then not only about what they have said, but about what they haven't said. They will never, ever give President Trump any credit for the things that he has done for this nation, with the stock market and the jobs reports and the closing of the border. I mean, so many things. They will never give him credit for anything he's done. Anything. They vilify him for everything, and including this man, Mueller, all the corruption that went on with that. So I do get it. I do get it. Now, I don't believe anyone, at least as far as I know, I won't say not everyone, but most, I don't believe most on the right call for censorship. I don't recall anyone calling for censorship, deplatforming. Now we'll say, people have said, horrible things, and oh, I wish they weren't online, or I wish they didn't have their show or whatever you, but
yep,
I don't think anyone is calling for like YouTube or ABC, CBS, anything to remove anyone off.
Oh, yes, they have. But yes, they have. But my point is this. I don't care one way or the other. I just want it to be free speech, period.
Right.
Like
You
it
always
or
know
like
it's
it or
free
not.
speech.
Right. You don't have to like it. You don't have to
speech.
agree with it, whatever.
Yeah.
President Trump said something similar when someone else died recently. I can't remember who it was. But this is, like you said, this is who he is.
It's free speech.
This is who the right selected. We know who he is. I'm not upset. I'm not upset either way. I'm not clutching my pearls, that I am so offended by either the left or the right. I just want it to be equal, that if it's going to be dished out on the left, it can be on the right and vice versa. So that's all I'm saying. But we have Carol here. Carol has a super chat. For $2. Carol says, I'm sorry, Kung Fu CJ, $2 super chat. Thank you. He says there is no but. Cuss her ass out, Shelly. Okay. Oh my gosh. Carol also, thank you for your $2. Carol says, I won't say anything bad, but no tears for Mueller, whatever his name is. God rest his soul. I just say rest in peace, whatever. I just want, again, don't tell people, well, because you attacked the guy that I support and like, now, you got to go, you should be fine. Oh, no, have it out. Have it out. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. All is fair in love and politics.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think, at least I have not heard anyone mention this is a free speech issue. I think people understand that he has the right to write or say this. I think it's whether or not they felt like this was, morally right or
in good taste.
Right.
And I'm saying that free speech does not have to mean that someone has to say something more.
Again, I don't know why
because that's the point that I'm making, KJ. Because other people have not made that point does not mean that I can. This is free speech too.
Right. Of course. Yeah. We know he has free speech to say that. The question is whether it was right for him to say it.
And I get that. And I'm saying all things being equal, it's right in the sense that on both sides, people can say what they want. It's disgusting, as good, up, down, whatever, as they want about whomever. And just because it happens to be the person that I may agree with or not, okay, fine. That's what the marketplace, if you will, of social media should allow.
Absolutely. And
people, there are caveats. There are limits.
We have our opinions on perspectives on it. Right.
There are certainly limits. There are certainly limits to quote unquote free speech. There are certainly limits, and a lot of the people who have been fired from their jobs, especially there's, for whatever reason, so many people in healthcare that have been let go from their jobs, not because they disagreed, not because they didn't like Charlie Kirk and had their reasons for not liking President Trump, but when you threaten the life of someone,
that's different. I've always said most of the time I say free speech, I normally say threatening someone with violence. Of course, that's off the book. But again, there have been people who were, I don't know, pushed out. I'm using the word censoring maybe in the broadest sense. But my point is that all things are equal in love and politics.
All right, we have some more super chats here.
Yes, we have Fifth House Productions. Thank you for your $10 super chat. Hi, ladies. Can Pop in Politics host a lipstick and legislative meet and greet? Oh, that's cute.
Absolutely. And I love that Janet Jackson picture. Love every moment of that.
But Nicole, that's a good point you brought up, because again, we have seen recently, like you mentioned, with the nurses and things like that. And again, that's something. Whether it was about life or death or not, if you are working for a private employer, you can be fired based on some of the things you say.
Absolutely. Your standards of your employment. Some people have morality clauses in their contracts and that kind of thing. And most people don't even remember that they had it because they've been working at their job so long. It is just a certain level of decorum that's expected in certain professions. Like, you can't have nurses telling people, listen, if a Republican comes in, I'm going to give him a hot shot. I'm going to give him an air embolus. You cannot do that.
Absolutely.
You just simply cannot do that. That
Absolutely.
flies in the face of your oath, definitely the morality clause of your employer. And it's not necessarily in bad taste, because Americans say much more horrible things than that on a daily basis, but it does kind of fly in the face of your particular community standards. In healthcare, we're all about helping people. We're not here to tell other people ways to harm folk. That's not what we do. It's just not the way we do.
Absolutely agree.
Yep.
We have another super chatter here for $100.
Whoa!
One Mind Tab.
Thank
you. One Mind Tab.
Thank
Says
you.
Maga. Love y'all ladies. Thank you
so much. That's so very generous.
Hi, Josh. Thank you
Hey,
for your
Josh.
$20 super chat. That evil man Mueller, how do you pronounce his name? And the globalist who targeted Trump sidelined his first term with the fake Russia probe. NATO is still out to get him, and Ukraine is a cover for corruption that makes Minnesota look like chump change. You're probably right about that, Josh.
Say it, friend. We could do a whole show just on that. Ukraine's missing money.
Yep, you're right. You're right. All right, folks. Well, want to get into this next segment, folks. So, well, first, before we get into it, we're gonna move here to and speaking of Josh, because I believe he's in Massachusetts. Our next segment is on the state of Massachusetts. Joining us to talk about that is John Deaton. He is a Republican candidate running for the U.S. Senate seat in Massachusetts. John Deaton. All right. How are you tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. Hey, how are you?
Thank you. Finally made it. Thank you for your patience with all our technical difficulties.
It is my pleasure to be with you, ladies.
Absolutely. Now, please, will you introduce yourself to the audience and what your channel here and also your candidacy?
All right, I appreciate it. My name's John Deaton. I ran against Elizabeth Warren 2 years ago in Massachusetts as a first-time, candidate. Had never run before. And did a lot better than people think, because Massachusetts is tough for a Republican. And I'm going up against the other senator who's 80 years old. He's been in Washington, ladies, since 1976. Wow. That was his first year. And so I'm taking him on. Was born and raised in Detroit from a single mother on welfare and food stamps. I wrote a book called Food Stamp Warrior a couple years ago. Come from had a deadbeat dad, and he abandoned us in a really bad neighborhood of Detroit. And I experienced childhood violence, poverty, was a high school dropout for a little bit because of the violence in the neighborhood. And, to be honest with you, I'm the embodiment of the American dream and what's possible if you work hard and you're given an opportunity. And I joined the Marine Corps. I did 7 years of that. I'm a dad. I got 3 daughters. And I decided to run for office because I don't want to be part of the last generation where a poor kid from the hood can actually make it in this country.
Right on. Right on. Wow, what a journey. Well, we want to get right into it, because we're talking about some issues that are happening in Massachusetts, but really affect us all over the country. So Boston's mayor has signed into law a $4.5 million fund for illegals, legal aid, free services, language classes, even diapers. And at the same time, she's blocking ICE from doing its job. So let's get into this. This is clip one. Take a look at this clip.
The police department has said that they ignored 57 ICE detainer requests. ICE says it's not 57, it's 167. These are just a few of the people that they let go. Oliver Gaffey Oswin, he's from Barbados, 61, arrested for strangulation or suffocation. He's also been convicted of improper disposal of a human body. What? Philemon de Gustave, 48, of Haiti. Indecent assault and battery on a person 14 years or old. All of us in the community feel better knowing that neighbor Philemon is back out on the street. Marlon Joel Rodriguez, strangulation, operating under the influence, assault and battery. Daniel Noel Nova Cruz, 35, Dominican, felony assault, aggravated assault, cruelty towards a child. Carlos Arodi Cuevas de la Cruz, Dominican Republic. Assault with a knife. Ismael de los Santos Bernabel, 29. 4 convictions with intent to distribute Class A drugs. This is the problem when you let these people go.
Oh, wow. All right, John. So I want to ask you, should taxpayer money ever be used to support non-citizens in this way?
Of course not. And let me just tell you why it's so relevant in the race I'm running. You were talking about Michelle Wu, the mayor of Boston, and 4 million. By the way, she's also came out and said that there's no money for office supplies now. And that I'm not making a joke. That literally she's cutting the budget after this. Ed Markey, who is the senator I'm running against, he's proposed $100 million bill to give lawyers to the illegal migrants who are here. And listen, this is what I say, ladies. First of all, if you have a sinking boat, right, you don't take on more passengers and let it all sink. You get the passengers that you have on safe, you repair the boat, and then you go out to try to help other people. We have plenty of Americans who have not yet participated in the American dream, and they're not getting free healthcare, free debit cards, and they have been passing out on average $15,000 a month per family of taxpayer money. The governor here spent $4 billion all on illegal migrants. At the same time, 2 hospitals in communities like Dorchester and Roxbury, which are already underserved communities, those people are losing their hospitals, and they're saying, well, we don't have any money, yet they're coming up with money for this. And so, the problem is, if you say something like that, then all of a sudden they say, oh, you're a xenophobe, right? Because you don't like foreigners or something. That's not what it is. We're a nation of laws, and you're slapping people in the face who came here legally, got a sponsor, they did it the right way. And now they just flooded it in, and they seem to be giving more benefits to people who crossed here illegally and are committing crimes than the people who've lived here all their life. And it really is insane. Sometimes I wake up and I think I'm living in the bizarro world, because if you have a guy who crossed the border illegally and he raped a child, they won't allow the prison or the police force to call ICE and say, hey, we've got this illegal and he committed child rape. Come pick him up. They won't allow any cooperation. And so it's insane.
Wow. Wow. So this is what I want to ask. We talk about this a lot on our show. We know that a lot of times these money pots, if you will, they have almost carte blanche access to taxpayer funds to keep funding this foolishness, which ultimately hurts the taxpayer. So what can everyday American do? What do we need to do to stop this madness? Not only just get these crazy politicians out, but what can we do to stop these money trains? How can we legally stop them?
Well, listen, what you have to do, well, actually, it's a great question. There are certain states that have certain laws. In Massachusetts, there's an old law that allows taxpayers to sue the government and the state legislature if they're not doing their job. And so me and 28 other taxpayers did that. But the first thing we got to do is we got to get rid of career politicians like Ed Markey. 50 years that he's been there. And if you look at these cities, what they've done is that, their hatred for President Trump, in my opinion, outweighs their love for their country. When President Obama was the president, there was a policy which was, if someone was arrested immediately in a local jail, immediately that information would be shared with the FBI and shared with ICE. And then you would know, okay, and then you would call them and say, hey, this person's being released on Tuesday, and ICE would go pick them up at the jail. Instead, now, because of their reaction to Trump, they won't allow that cooperation. And then that causes ICE to have to go into the communities instead of going to the jail cell and picking them up. They're trying to find them on the street. And so we have to elect new leadership and get these career politicians out. That's the most important point, and not take an attitude of, well, nothing's going to change, so I'm not going to vote. My challenge, ladies, is getting people to not feel like they're so disenfranchised that they're not even going to go vote, and convince them that that's the first step. Go to the ballot. Let's give somebody else a chance.
Agreed. Listen, that's a challenge across the nation. But some of the places that are sanctuary states, kind of like Maryland, not all of Maryland is sanctuary, but a large part of Maryland is sanctuary. One of the things that we've been very successful in motivating those voters with is the fact that it is a sanctuary. And what happens when other states say, no, we won't house illegals. No, we won't employ illegals. And your area becomes overrun. What happens when your kids go to school in trailers instead of an actual school building because all of these illegal migrant children, many of whom who don't speak English, suddenly have to be educated? What happens then? What happens when it's your property value that takes a nosedive? What happens when it's your husband or your wife who loses their job because they can find cheaper labor and someone who's undocumented? What happens then? So that's been very successful. And I know people say, well, that's fear mongering. It's very real. It is a very real thing that's happening across this country in very blue places, like here in Maryland. We've seen a great exodus of our wealthier people who said, listen, I can do better than this. Florida looks great. Texas looks great. South Carolina looks great. And it's really changing kind of the fabric of the state. So what are you going to do? Your first day as senator, let's say you get elected. Thank God you get elected. What's going to be your first act? What's going to be your first bill that you bring to the floor?
Well, the first bill would be seeking a constitutional amendment to implement term limits, because we've got to stop. There's no reason. The founders did not expect someone to go into the Senate and be there for 50 years. And the great thing about term limits is that it doesn't discriminate. It applies across Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. You know, listen, in California, there was Dianne Feinstein. She was 90 in a wheelchair. There's a video of wheeling her into the Senate floor. She's confused, and someone's whispering in her ear, an unelected person saying, say aye, say aye. And then she votes aye after she gets it wrong. And then you've got Mitch McConnell. She's a Democrat. Mitch McConnell, he's had 3 strokes on national TV. I'm not making fun of his health. God bless him. But we've witnessed it, and now he's in a wheelchair and he won't go. Chuck Grassley's 92 in Iowa, and he's going to run again. Ed Markey, 80 years old, would be 86 years old in office, and so term limits is important. Also, single issue bills. Why? Think about it, ladies. Why would the Ukraine funding bill? Guess what it should be called? The Ukraine funding bill. Right? It shouldn't be, well, we got this 2,000-page spending bill that they don't read, and it involves Social Security and education and Ukraine and war and foreign aid to another country. Just one issue at a time. The bill should be 5 to 10 pages, produced 72 hours in advance so people could read it, and then you vote on it. Obviously, inside stock trading, we have to clean up the swamp. We really do.
Absolutely.
Also, you shouldn't be able to lobby. You go to Washington, and you shouldn't then become a career lobbyer. I mean, just think about it. We have so many congressmen and women. They literally go to Congress worse than broke. It'll say minus $45,000 net assets. 5 years later, they're worth $15-20 million. We have a corrupt system. And so a lot of it is cleaning that up would be some of the first things that I do, because if the public loses confidence in our institutions in Congress, then we don't really have a true constitutional Republican democracy, because there's no confidence in it.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that you mentioned, like you said, about how we don't have a republic, we may not have a country that looks like what we've grown up to be if we don't stop this birthright citizenship. So I want to get your opinion on this, your legal background here. You know, as we know, the Supreme Court is going to hear oral arguments on Trump v. Barbara, which is asking, does the Constitution force universal birthright citizenship? Or can the executive enforce the correct originalist reading? What are your thoughts on this case, John?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. And listen, it's just like the founders, ladies, they would be shocked if they were able to come today. They'd be like, "What do you mean you didn't add anything? You didn't change? You didn't have a second constitutional convention? Like, you're still going by that stuff that we wrote 250 years ago, right?" And so, for example, birth of citizenship was meant to protect Blacks who were slaves, who were being denied. That's the real root of birthright citizenship. And so it wasn't meant to create a system where let me just rush and give birth, because then, if I give birth, then I'm immediately a citizen. I mean, here in Massachusetts, we have 1.1 million people on food stamps, and half are illegals who got here in the last 4 years and then gave birth. And then because they gave birth to a U.S. citizen, that U.S. citizen then can qualify, obviously, for assistance. And it's a system that we really need to look at modern day, our country, right? Like, our country wasn't the same that it was 250 years ago. And so, of course, we're a country of immigrants. We're all immigrants, but that doesn't mean that you don't have sensible immigration law. That doesn't mean we don't reform it. I went to the border when I ran 2 years ago, and I was told that the real number under Biden was 12 million, that 12 million undocumented illegal migrants crossed. And this is what I say, ladies. I say, listen, I know what it's like to be poor and long for the American dream. I can identify with someone who wants the American dream. Let's assume that 90% of the 12 million are good, decent human beings that just want a better life. If only 10% are bad guys, that's 1.2 million bad guys that you left. Now imagine if it's 80% instead of 90%. Now you're at 2.4 million people. And we got a real problem. If you don't have border and good immigration policy, you don't have a country.
Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely.
John, look, I have a correction I need to make for you.
Okay.
I'm not an immigrant. I was born here. I'm a Native American. So that's what I was born here. So thankfully, I'm thankful for it. I'm a veteran as well. But this is my question to you. In your great state of Massachusetts, Boston, Massachusetts, there was this tea party that I remember they had. So what is it going to take for us today to at least get to that point of disgust? I mean, what is it going to take? I know what you said we Americans need to do, but what is it going to take? Because I mean, from my never to be humble opinion, I've had enough, beyond enough. I am sick of paying taxes for this crap. I'm sick of my money being, I call it, confiscated and then being distributed amongst people and programs that I would never support on my own. So I'm kind of paying taxes that's hurting my own interest.
Absolutely. The whole thing, taxation without representation, is what you're talking about. And the American Revolution started in Massachusetts. Lexington Concords, where the first bullets of the Revolutionary War were shot. I think we're there. I think the people have had enough. Here in Massachusetts, we are dead last in housing affordability. We are dead last in private sector job growth. We have 1.1. We have almost 20% of the population will be on food stamps soon. Now imagine that. We have Harvard, MIT, Tufts, the best hospitals, and we have almost 20% of our population that's going to be on food stamps. And so, and we're seeing exactly what you said that's happening, where the people are migrating, they're leaving, they're going to Florida, they're going to New Hampshire, they're going to Tennessee, they're going to Texas. In states like Massachusetts, where they implemented a wealth tax on top of all the other taxes. It's driving everyone out. You see what's happened in New York. The governor, right, a few years ago was like, we don't need you. And now she's literally saying, please, please come back, come back. And so there's a real reckoning happening. I was hoping that the blue states like Massachusetts and others, when they saw that President Trump won a second time, that they would say, okay, maybe we should revisit some of these policies, right? Because, just whatever you think of President Trump, there are issues that he brings, and the American people said, "Oh, he won the Electoral College. He won the popular vote. He increased on all demographics of voters." And you would think that they would say, let's figure out why that's happening, why people have this feeling that that they've been forgotten. That the government doesn't care about them anymore, and they haven't learned. So we're at a precipice, and I think in the next 5 years, you got people talking about, like, I'm saying, I'm not going to pay my taxes. Screw it. Like, you literally have so many people in that position right now. So what are you going to do? So I'll roll the dice and see if I get audited and see if I get, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the next few years.
All right, John. Please let our audience know how they can support you, where they can find you, and any other things that you want to let anyone know about before we let you go.
Well, thank you so much. The first thing I say is I want to make sure people know I'm not just running that Marky's old and he's been there forever. I've got some really great ideas. I got an idea called an innovation dividend, just to give you a little snapshot of where taxpayers, our dollars, since we were talking about that, has caused the innovation of the internet, GPS, you name it. And all of these companies, Harvard gets $600 million in taxpayer money every year. Harvard, and they already have $59 billion in an endowment. And then they take that money and they have a breakthrough, and then they license it to private companies and make $200 million. Well, our tax dollars went there. We need to get a cut of that. Right. So 1 to 2% would go into a national dividend, and our taxpayers would be benefited when there's progress like that. And so I've got lots of ideas. I just want people to know I'm fighting for people and for things, not just against people and against things. But JohnDeatonForSenate.com, JohnDeatonForSenate.com. If they can donate, even if it's $10, it helps. And if you're in Massachusetts, you can volunteer and door knock and go on parades and put out signs and all that kind of stuff. If you want to know everything that you want to know and not know about me, my book's called Food Stamp Warrior.
It's on Amazon. Yeah,
it is.
You can get it.
Wow.
All right. We have a super chat, a question for you, John.
We have Josh here from Massachusetts or New England. Josh,
he's in Massachusetts.
John says, John, I own a successful pub, and I think it's Harwich or Harwich on the Cape. I know the sentiment is with you on all these issues. How do we defeat the dim machine in the state, the liberal white women who vote in every election? It can be done.
Yeah, it can be done. And the good news for me is, since it's my second time, and for Massachusetts and Josh, is I don't have a primary challenger this time. And so I'm able to take the case of common sense leadership to the 64% that are independents. And we got a real shot. Ed Markey he's fighting with Seth Moulton in a Democratic primary. And they're trying to find out who is the more extreme. I mean, we're talking some far left stuff, as far left as you get. Green New Deal, open borders, not just amnesty, but citizenship for all 20 million illegals, not just defund ICE, prosecute ICE, biological men compete against biological women. You name it, that's where they're headed. And I'm sitting there talking to people about common sense. Let's get our energy prices down. Let's get home ownership. Let's secure our border. Let's get crime off the street. Basic things like that I think are going to resonate, because a lot of people are fed up. And even center left people are fed up that they went too far left.
Yeah, we got another one
Another super
here.
chat from Fifth House Productions for your $5. He says, John, I just donated to John's campaign. I live in DC, which is becoming a tech crypto hub. I love your energy. Good luck. So thank you.
Absolutely. That's wonderful.
That was very generous. Thank you. I appreciate the donation. I really do.
Yeah, and you know what? We started this channel for people like you. You know, you have that kind of like urban, New England, East Coast energy, and it's so refreshing to see someone like yourself who's conservative. You know, because we live in these enclaves that are so progressive, so leftist. You know, we're surrounded by leftist nuts. And so because we're here in Baltimore.
You need to come to Massachusetts.
We're not quite that far yet, but we're well on our way. We are absolutely well on our way.
Yes, indeed. So it's so refreshing to speak with you. We got to have you back on, but certainly we wish you all the best in your campaign, and we will continue to support you from here.
I would love to come back, ladies. Thank you so much. It's been my honor and pleasure to be with you.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
John. Good luck. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. All right, folks. So yes, we will link John's website in the description for this broadcast, so you guys can check him out. But again, that's John Deaton. He is a Republican candidate running for the U.S. Senate seat in Massachusetts.
Absolutely. Love his outlook. I love everything he had to say, especially how do you beat a lunatic Dem in a lunatic Dem area? Common sense, right? People respond to common sense when they're arguing about what color fur, the furries can wear to school. Let's talk about something that kitchen table issues. It definitely resonates with independent voters.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think we had a super chat we didn't get. It was Bennett, something about Coley. There we go. Kung Fu. We tried that one. Kung Fu CJ. Bennett sounds like Maryland's next representative. Thank you, Kung Fu CJ, for your $2 super chat.
Thank you, Kung Fu CJ.
All right. So let's move right along, folks. We just talked about Massachusetts. Now we got to talk about Chicago, Illinois. All right. Oh my goodness. Terrible murder of a Loyola student in Chicago. Take a look at this next clip. This is clip 4.
Prosecutors have charged an illegal immigrant from Venezuela with the murder of 18-year-old Sheridan Gorman in Chicago. She was a Loyola Chicago University student. She was shot and killed while just walking with her friends less than a mile away from campus. ICE has now lodged an arrest detainer and asked the governor not to release the suspect who entered the U.S. under the Biden administration. Officials released him back in 2023 into the homeland. He is facing 6 felony counts, including murder, and is due in court next hour for a detention hearing. So lots of backlash, of course, after a Democratic Chicago alderwoman seemed to downplay this murder. Listen.
The kids were out doing normal things people do in the neighborhood. And it sounds like this might have been a wrong place, wrong time, running into a person who had a gun. They might have startled this person at the end of the pier unintentionally.
Wrong place, wrong time, she says. Well, the victim's family says, don't you dare. They address that comment directly. Here's part of their heartbreaking statement. They write, what Sheridan was doing that night, walking with friends near her campus, was normal. It was safe. It is what students do every day. We will not allow this to be dismissed as wrong place, wrong time. This was not random misfortune. This was a violent and preventable act, and we are gravely disappointed by the policies and failures that allow this individual to remain in a position to commit this crime. When systems fail, whether through release decisions, lack of coordination, or unwillingness to act, the consequences are not abstract. They are real, and in our case, they are permanent.
These sanctuary hells, these hell pits. We talked about this. Shelly, what are your thoughts about what this poor girl losing her life, and then what the alderman had the nerve to say?
Yeah. It's more than they just don't care. they hate America, okay? They hate our republic, our constitutional republic, that they have to vie for Americans' votes. The only person who was here at a wrong place in the wrong time was that piece of shit that murdered her. That's the only one who was wrong place and wrong time. I don't even know why she even thought it was necessary to even say that. Even her demeanor in saying that, it just came across as so nonchalant. Oh, you know, there's another day on the boardwalk, okay? Under the boardwalk, down by the sea. This is what's his name? Mr. Deaton just said it. We have to get these politicians out at every level, whatever they take for granted. They take for granted that position belongs to them. They have a right to it. And not only that they expect us to pay for it. All the while, we are getting literally the kickback, the death, the destruction to our families, to ourselves, our loved ones, while they keep on going and doing whatever they're doing. We have to come to that precipice. It should be now.
Yeah. Nicole, to me, it's like these leftists, they favor the ideology over the citizens.
Of
This
course.
is what we're seeing.
Of course they do. Listen, these illegals, you know, it's not just about the ones that sneak and vote and the ones who don't. It's not about that. This is all about apportionment, right? The United States Constitution says when we do a census, it's not of just Americans, it's of people. So if you have an extra 5 million people in that area, whether they're citizens or not, regardless of their immigration status, they are counted. And they are counted when it comes to money for schools, roadway projects, and congressional seats. So this is not anything to do with them having a deep abiding love for illegal immigrants, because from the look on her face, the only person she cares about is her. People are so desensitized to violence. This girl didn't lose her life. Her life was taken from her. She was trying to run away from him when this coward shot her. Number one, he should not have had a firearm. Number two, well, let's start. He shouldn't have been here. Let's do that. Should not have had a firearm. And what in God's name is he doing on the so-called safe part of this city? What is going on here? You know what's going on? Census is coming. So we're going to turn a blind eye. We're going to say, so what? 2% of the population is going to die. As long as we keep our congressional seats and we retain power, it's worth it. For them, this is a war. And the people that die in this war, we're going to grieve them. We're going to send thoughts and prayers, but we're not going to do a damn thing about it, because I need these illegals here for my district. The woman in New York said that, the Black woman in New York said that maybe 6 months ago, when they were talking about what are we going to do with these Haitian immigrants.
Yeah.
She said, send them to me. I need them in my district. She needs them in her district because most of the people who lived in her district have moved. The taxes in New York got outrageous. It's too expensive to live there. They left. And she's saying, I want to keep the district. Send me some illegals. Send them over here. I'll take care of them. Which means she's going to get them universal income, which means she's going to find them housing. Although college graduates are having a hard time finding housing. People who didn't go to college, who went straight into the workforce, are having problems, especially in New York, finding housing. Don't worry about that. I'll hook them up. Send them to me. This is what this all boils down to. The power. Because some people vote blindly. They don't even look at the names. They say, oh no, I'm voting a straight Democrat ticket right now because I don't like Trump. And when they do that, what they don't understand is when you have to go to school, the school board for your kids, it's because you voted that straight damn Democrat ticket. When you're upset that little Johnny is learning more and more about homosexual and transsexuals in school than he is about ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, remember that straight ass Democrat ticket. Elections have consequences. Ask Virginia. Virginia is having a hard time with the CIA agent that they elected. They're having even the Democrats are complaining. This is what happens when you close your eyes and you vote. It is ridiculous. There are some parts of very libertarian places that say not everybody should have a vote. We should have like an IQ test, some kind of cutoff that keeps people who are not actually participating from voting. I disagree with that. No, I disagree with that. And let me tell you why. because the people at the bottom of the food chain have the most to lose, because everything impacts them more than it impacts us. We have at least some middle class to protect us from some things. Gas is a little bit more expensive. We, him and haw about it, but we buy it, right? Well, what happens when you don't have the money to buy it?
In my opinion, the uninformed voter is more dangerous than a leftist voter. These people are being used, and they're almost like, they're doing whatever people tell them to do.
They're
And
automatons. Yes.
if you're going to be that, I don't believe you should vote. I agree with that. I have said that for a very long time. This is why the Democrats are importing illegals here. This is because these are people who they can use. These are uninformed. They don't speak English. So they're using them for it and telling them who to vote for. These people are destroying our country. The uninformed, stupid ass voters.
By way of the politicians that we elect.
Exactly.
So,
our own
by way of the politicians that we elect. So
did we elect them? Were they elected by the people?
I'm saying I understand what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying. I'm with John Deaton. I'm at the point now where I meant to ask. I'm gonna have to write him, ask him where's their group that
I thought you were gonna say
they're not paying their taxes. I'm gonna ask them where group is that. Let me see if I can join, become a member, whatever. Because this is almost everything, but 95% of everything that we pay for, that we vote for to not have, we get the opposite of, and then it comes back to us tenfold in the negative. I mean, exactly. It's ridiculous. We have a super chatter here. Carol Mathis again. Hi, Carol again. Thank you for your $2. She says, Shelly is on fire tonight, saying everything I feel. Thank you, thank you, Carol. It's a mess. And I meant to say this when he was talking about the taxes, and give us our money back. Give me my money back. That went through my mind. I didn't want to cut him off, but I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, this is exactly, it's real life, real time, real people. We are real people who these policies affect, not just these so-called the criminals, the violent criminals, if you will, the illegals, all these people, the so-called, what they call them now? Unhoused, homeless people, okay? Illegals that they want to take care of every damn thing and everybody else except do what they're supposed to do. Put the homeless people in a shelter, put them in the airports and board it up like the third world, and get the other people out of the airports that need to get on their flights. I mean, this is ridiculous. I'm sick of it. I am sick of it. John Deaton, if you're still listening, I will be contacting you because I want to find out that group.
I think we should advertise the group on the show. And that just brings us back to the Give Me My Money Back t-shirt. You can have it in a hoodie. You can have it in a t-shirt. Listen, tax day is coming. April 15th is right around the corner. And listen, I might hold off on mine too. So, because listen,
I wouldn't say that publicly.
Worst case scenario, KJ, they put me in federal prison. We're going to have some new viewers because I'm live from federal prison. I'm organizing the conservatives. There's going to be strikes and hunger strikes. I mean, we're going to do some stuff if I get there. But let's hope it never comes to that. Give me my money back is a beautiful, beautiful thing to say, not only as a conservative person, but just as an American. They have been incredibly poor stewards of our money. Incredibly poor stewards. They don't even know where it's going. You got Nick Shirley, this kid's going around exposing massive fraud, where we have news reporters now trying to imitate Nick Shirley. Where was all this, eyewitness news when they were stealing $19 billion? And when people blew the whistle, they intimidated the whistleblowers, showing up at their kids' schools and all this other stuff. People should be in handcuffs, and I want my money back. I want it all back. Because, see, the money that they took from me, I could spend much better making my community great. I don't need them to make my community great. I know what my community needs well better than they do. Well better than they do. And I can give you chapter and verse of small towns where regular people said, you know what, I had enough of this, big time politician running. We're just going to run a group of guys. We're just going to run to make sure that we can do better. Delmar, Maryland, perfect example. You had a career politician that was their mayor. She was a whole hot mess. We had this pothole for like 4 years. We were thinking about throwing it a birthday party. It was just like the one pothole in the town. So these guys ran against her, and we did a very good campaign. But now all the streets are paved. They've got more police officers without raising their budget. There's no debt into bringing these other people on. They've got a working and very capable fire department. All of this came from regular everyday citizens who said, I can do better than big government can. That's the American way. Not this big government where they say, oh, I'm the power and you're just the people. They've got it messed up. The people are the power, not the elected official. The elected official should only be there for a short time, not a long time. We should not have any 50-year incumbents. We should not have any of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Folks, sound off in the chat. Let us know what you think. Also, as you come in, hit that like button. We have almost 500 people watching. We want to get those likes up, folks. That tells YouTube to push this video out in front of a wider audience. And that's what we're here to do, folks. We want more people to see this. We are God-fearing, truth-seeking, America-loving people that value freedom. If that's you, subscribe. Our goal is to hit 250,000 subscribers. We're close, but we need your help. So don't forget to share this video. You can send it in an email. You can send it in a text message, post it on your social media. Definitely share. We want to grow the movement. Also, you can check us out. Look at S-Files, our great moderator. Yes, you can check us out, our website at metroconservativemedia.com. If you miss an episode, or if you're more of a reader and want to hear or read some articles that we have, definitely check out metroconservativemedia.com. All right. So want to change gears a little bit here and talk about something that's actually gone viral and has sort of been taken over all over the country. These huge teen takeovers. All right. And there was one that just occurred in Atlanta. I mean, massive arrests, fighting. This was just crazy. All right. And the Atlanta police are actually now being praised nationwide for confirming they will charge the parents of youths who carry out teen takeovers. This is clip 5.
What charges could they face if they are not aware or just let their kids be a part of this?
In certain circumstances, there are avenues that we can take, and we plan on exploring every avenue involved in these takeovers. And yes, in some cases, it would involve charging parents.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. All right. So let's talk about this. Key details from multi-agency briefing, including Atlanta Public Schools, that it started on social media. So social media showed plans for large-scale disruptive gatherings, and then these events escalated to something else. So I want to ask you, Shelley, do you think parents should be charged for these youth teen takeovers?
Absolutely. They should be charged, as well as charging the youth, so to speak, whatever you want to call them. They should be charged as well. This behavior, this is beyond just teenagers, having a little Saturday night fun. This is beyond that. This is a culture, a subculture, but it's a culture nonetheless. It's a negative subculture. It's a mindset, and their mindset is that basically we get to destroy, we get to be destructive, we get to just run around like wild animals, feral children, okay, because they're piss poor parents. Really, in a nutshell, they don't give a damn. The parents, obviously, I think they do know that their children are out doing that. I think, as a matter of fact, the parents know, and they probably high-fiving them for it. Myself, I really believe that. I just believe that. I'm guessing most of these parents let the children run the home. Okay. They have what I'm calling quote unquote a child-centered home. And I'm talking about in the negative way, where the child is the center of attention and the child gets to determine what everybody else is going to do or not going to do by the way that the child is acting. This is what I'm calling a negative child-centered home. Okay. This is absolutely charge them, fine them, drag them to court. They have to. teenagers like this. I don't know how many there were there, but over 100 with an S on the end. They don't just show up spontaneously. This is all planned.
Yeah, to me though, I mean, you talk about child-centered home. To me, it's the exact opposite. It's a home that's not really has any type of control, any type of parental guidance. Many of these parents are probably, on drugs, have substance abuse. They're not there physically or mentally, and these kids are just running amok. Take a look at this next clip. This is clip 7.
Wow. Come to Daytona and you see this bullshit like that, bro. What the f you running from, bro? Like, oh my
God. All right. That was in spring break in Daytona Beach, Florida. All right. Then we have another one here. This is clip 6 in D.C.
In D.C.'s Navy Yard are dealing with the fallout after another so-called teen takeover. The chaos this weekend ended with robberies, assaults, and a gunshot fired into the air. Police ended up arresting 2 teenagers. 7 News reporter John Gonzalez is joining us live here in Navy Yard. So, John, restaurant owners say all of this has left their customers and their staff worried about their safety.
And Adam, this isn't the first time or the second time, not even the third time this has happened here in the Navy Yard in recent months. And with opening day for the Washington Nationals just a little over 2 weeks away, this is the time of year when many of these restaurants and bars and shops are really banking on big crowds. Well, many of the owners here say after what happened this past weekend, they are worried about what these incidents mean for business in the coming months. Police say about 200 juveniles flooded the area once again. We've got the video to show you, leading to robberies, assaults, and a gunshot fired. 2 teens were arrested. 2 guns were recovered, but many restaurants had already locked down their doors and sheltered in place inside. Resident industry expert Mike Jones says events like this can really hurt business, especially in a neighborhood depending on weekend dining and nightlife.
These young people know they cannot be arrested. They're not going to be charged, and they know that they can keep doing this. And the problem is they don't recognize the financial and economic damage they're doing to that community. Enough is enough. The city has got to put their feet down and say, 1, where are the parents? Why are they not accountable? And what are we doing to stop this?
Yeah, tens of thousands lost for these businesses. And this weekend, Navy Yard did not have that juvenile curfew in place, a restriction that was active just last weekend.
Wow. All right. So, Nicole, here's Sierra says it's an embarrassment for the Black community. Do you think this is a Black thing? Is this what they say on the street? Nigga business.
Listen, I can tell you definitively what's happening in Navy Yard is mostly because Navy Yard is one of the places where, me and my friends hang out sometimes. Well, we stopped doing it probably last summer because of this, and not because we have any kind of fear of ill behaving children, but because it got to a point where you couldn't park your car without it being jumped on, damaged, that kind of thing. It comes to a point where the people who run those communities, and I'm back to talking about local government, they have this spoil the child mentality. They're so concerned about Black and brown children being held accountable that they're not holding them accountable at all. And what happens is they put it on social media. Somebody will put out a snap. Somebody will put, something on IG, big party, Navy Yard, meet out in front of Soul Spice, meet out by Rasta Pasta, all that. And they will. And hundreds of kids will show up. Not all of them from DC. Many from Prince George's County and surrounding areas will come in. And of course, there's going to be fights because this school don't like this school. And he tried to talk to my girlfriend, kids with their kid shit. The problem is when you have children mixing with adults in a place that serves alcohol, it is a powder keg. It is an absolute powder keg waiting to go off. So what DC government has decided to do, rather than hold these Black and brown children accountable, is they have a citywide curfew. All the kids have to be home by 11 o'clock, allegedly. Now, in certain areas like Navy Yard, Chinatown, U Street Corridor, where there are adults that have been drinking and partying and having a good time, they don't want children there after 8, when most adults are just now getting there, to try to keep them apart. But they can only do it in small increments because the county count or their city council says we don't want Black and brown children to be held accountable for this type of behavior. And you're looking for their parents, go over 3 blocks. They're over on U Street drinking and partying. Here's the problem that we have. Parents aren't what we used to traditionally think of as parents. Parents now are, glorified babysitters, if that. They want to have their own lives. They want to go out and do their own things. They've got their own friends and their own drama. We see them on TikTok. We see them all over the place. What they're not doing is raising their children. These kids are growing up feral. They're growing up absolutely feral. I get it. There's a group contagion and you're caught up in a crowd and, some of the crowd are doing bad things and you get swept up in the energy of those bad things. The way you don't do that is not be in the crowd. Not be in the crowd. There's no reason for 14-year-olds to be at Navy Yard at midnight. There's no reason for it. There's nothing in Navy Yard for 14-year-olds at midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. It is absolutely outrageous. They need to take the handcuffs off the police, change the rules of engagement, and absolutely lock these kids up. When they start locking them up and their parents have to stop partying on U Street and go pick their kid up from the local precinct, and oh, by the way, here's a $500 fine for you, and everybody's doing community service. I mean, we've got to get real serious. If we don't, we'll continue to see this.
Well, we're not just talking about kids. I mean, we saw the video, Shelly, Daytona Beach. I remember Daytona Beach back in my day. That used to be spring break for college. Now, I never went to Daytona Beach because that was generally, I'm going to be, folks, we know we're all family here. Yeah. That used to be the white area. I went to Miami Beach. I would go to Miami Beach. But I never in my life saw so many Black and brown people in Daytona Beach, and they're down there shooting people. Shelly, what's going on?
Yeah, see, I slightly disagree. I don't think most of these, let me put it this way. Most of these people, they're not just poor people just coming in there like hordes. No, they come from middle to upper middle class families by and large, because they're the ones who can afford the Daytona beaches and the Miami beaches, and they can afford the clothing and the cell phones for their children. So these children, young people, they come from relatively well-to-do, I'll say, families, if you will. Yeah, they're not just all poor, lower class. No, they're not. The culture that
I wasn't saying these people were lower class.
Oh, no, I'm saying the culture that they're breeding and the mindset, that's a subculture. That's the feral part. Like, that's the feral part of their upbringing, if you will. But again, and let me clarify this. When I say child center, I'm saying child center in a negative way. I don't really believe in child center. I think, because to me, child center means that everything is done from the child's perspective for a family. No, children don't pay bills. This is a child safe home. They get the love, the protection, the guidance, the discipline. They get 3 hots and a cot. Other than that, ain't nothing got a center on you. Okay,
but the Daytona Beach people were not children. Right. These are adults.
I'm talking about the young people in general. I'm talking about just the mindset of this child center. Child center has gone way too far, meaning that, like you talking about, Nicole, these politicians and lawmakers, they think they're looking at it from the perspective of the child, when what they're doing is perverting it, and they're putting the rest of us in danger. That's what I mean by this twist, if you will, of child center. No, give me a child. And when I grew up, I don't even think the child center was a word or a phrase. It was basically, this is what you do. We said that we're the adults. You're safe here. You get love, discipline, whatever, and that's it. And when you become on your own, then you can do what you want to do outside of my house. That was pretty much it. That was the only centering you had.
This is what I'm talking about. We have here 2 separate instances. We have teenagers in DC at the Navy Yard, which we talked about. Now we've moved to Florida, Daytona Beach. During spring break, these people are adults, and they're down there shooting. brandishing guns and all sorts of things. What's going on in Daytona Beach?
Spring break.
Yeah,
This is
spring
what
break.
Spring break looks like.
No. That never
It is.
used to be spring break like that.
Well,
Spring
no, 'cause
break
the
was
culture
not
is
people
different.
running around unless you were in somewhere like what do you call it? Myrtle Beach. Daytona Beach never looked like that. I know this for a fact.
It's the culture. It's the
culture is
mindset.
different.
It's
Much
a
more
mindset.
we are a much more homogenous society now than we were then, KJ. You know, as a black spring breaker, you wouldn't be caught dead at a white person's spring break. You didn't want to hear their music. You didn't want to drink their rusty beer. You wanted to do things that black folk do. So we did indeed have separate black and white spring breaks. And it wasn't because we didn't get along. It's just personal preference. I would much rather at that point in my life listen to, urban music than listen to country music. And the people who used to go to Daytona were absolutely white. And I'm sure that the Daytona police affected several arrests of naked people, drunk people, all that kind of thing. It's the same thing like when you think of going to, for example, Miami Beach. Miami Beach, you're going to find many more brown people, many, many, many more brown people doing it different. What I say now is that the culture is different for everybody. They're much more homogenous. Everybody basically listens to the same type of music. And when I say that most of those people starting trouble, and this is just me surmising this, probably are not spring breakers. They're people from neighboring towns, people who came to hang out with the spring breakers. When there's a party, people show up and they're not all looking for good.
I'll tell you what I think. I think that we have now entered, during our time, we didn't have social media. We didn't have influencers broadcasting different areas all over the country, letting people know where certain things were happening, what these places looked like, where's the best place to vacation. All these, you really had to know somebody to know. You had friends who would gone and you said, oh, this is the place. Now, in this new climate of social media, Instagram, TikTok, you have these influencers that are going all over the place. Now, the people who did not go to these places are coming in and they're ruining it.
Yeah.
They're ruining it. I've seen this literally happen here. People who never knew certain areas were nice and they used to be civilized. Now they're coming down and they're tearing it up, and they're ghettoing it up, and you don't have anywhere to go anymore.
That's the key. That's the key. They do know about it, and now you said it used to be word of mouth or whatever, but they're bringing with them this feral, destructive culture mindset. That it wouldn't be a problem if they just came and enjoyed and were civil. Their mindset is to tear down, and this goes to the book that we still have to talk about. Not this week, I hope, because I've been rereading this, and this black redneck and white liberals culture, this redneck cracker culture. Thomas Sowell is talking about it, and I see some parallels, and it's not a happy ending, basically. Okay, it really isn't. But these people, they are. This is the culture that, and this has nothing to do with slavery, according to Thomas Sowell. It's a cultural mindset. They are bent. It's like when I always say, something's wrong with us? I think it is. It's like they have this DNA genetic bent to destroy.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
It's a destructive mindset.
And most of the people, you're right. Most of the people that they show in Daytona Beach, running, whatever other place it was, most of them look like us.
Yeah, it's a destructive mindset of people who have never worked for anything. We have a culture now of young people where they're not taught that hard work is important, that in order to get something of success, of value, you want to, work for it. People think you're supposed to get whatever you owe me something. It's this, you owe me something culture. And so when you have that mindset, you go places and you don't think you should act civilized or take care of this area or not and then that goes along with the lack of value of life. We have seen, we talked about this on this show, where now this agenda is to have unprotected sex, and no longer you're called a whore, no longer you're seen as someone who is should be shamed for this. No, you should be out here having tons of unprotected sex with any and everybody. And if you get an STD or you catch AIDS, we're just going to give you all types of medication for that. And then on top of that, we push the abortion. If you get pregnant, okay, get as many abortions as you like. And then after that, go back to having all kinds of unprotected sex with any and everybody. And so the value of life has gone down. And if you don't value life, then of course you're going to go out to Daytona Beach brandishing guns and shooting up people, because you have no value for human life. And this is what we're seeing. And we need to call it out. I know some people say, no, you can't. Yeah, no, we're calling it out on here, folks. Yeah.
You have to, because, it really does, especially in DC. When you think about what Navy Yard used to look like before it's become gentrified, it's a very different place. It's a lovely part of town, very lovely part of town. Just have some pride in it.
Yeah, pride.
But act respectable. That's the one thing that I think that from a Black perspective, from our culture, what's missing in some, not all, but some of our young people is respectability. Right. They think respectability comes with Instagram fame. How many followers you have, that makes you respectable. They think if you have an OF account and you make a couple $1,000s, sitting on top of a blender for weirdos on the internet, that's respectable. They equate respectability with money.
Right. It's commodified everything. Yeah.
Absolutely. It is not the same. And you cannot objectively only blame them, because children learn respectability from their parents and their community. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's ridiculous that our children aren't learning respectability in school. Hell, they don't even do the Pledge of Allegiance. At some point, this nation is going to come to a breaking point. We're going to come to that point that John Deaton was talking about, that point that Shelley was talking about. And when we get there, what will the nation look like on the other side? What will the nation look like on the other side of this? So
and it never used to be something to deal with money, because even people, back in when we were coming up, even people who did not have a lot of money still had pride.
Yep.
Still took pride in what they had. Right. They valued what they had because they worked for it. They worked hard for it.
Right.
And so, so it's not about socioeconomic status or anything like that. It's the mindset is just terrible.
It's just gone. It's just gone.
Yeah, it really is. Again, I do. As far as summing this up, the parents, they do need to be charged and fined, along with their little feral children that they keep putting out. Again, I'm at a point. I don't know. I think this last year or two, I guess I've been reconsidering. I don't even want some people to breathe. Okay. And I know, I'm just kind of like just about there, but something has to change. And at that precipice, I think it's already upon us.
I agree. I think at some point, again, I say this all the time, not everybody's going to make the trip. And we got to be okay with that. As a culture, we got to be okay with leaving some folks behind. And for me, I think my breaking point was the little 7-year-olds in their pajamas robbing the Walgreens. Right. I think that was my personal, that was the straw that went too far, because you see these children and they're just emulating their older sister. They're effeminate like their older sister. They're saying the same things because, that she's your older sister. You're supposed to look up to her, but she's not respectable. She's a damn clown. She's absolute trash.
But they don't even know. They don't even know that they're not respectable. That's their mind is. They don't even know that they're not. And those young people, I'm not excusing them, but they don't even know that their sister is not respectable. Exactly. They don't even know.
Exactly, because the one little boy, when people started calling him out for being disrespectful, for not having and saying, "Oh, y'all low class, y'all low rent," it was like, no, we got plenty of snacks at home. We got clean clothes. We got this. We got that. All the things that he's taken so much pride in that mean absolutely nothing.
Right. Well, let's see what else.
Because your 7-year-old's robbing a damn Walgreens. I mean, that was my breaking point. I was done then.
So we have a few super chatters coming here. All right, producers, we are ready. We have Carol Mathis. Carol Mathis, thank you for your $2 super chat. Teen takeovers are out of control here.
Yeah,
they're all over the place.
Yeah. Jazza, thank you for your $5 super chat. Here in Baltimore City, they didn't ask the parents, can they go and walk the streets to protest against ICE?
Oh,
right.
that's true.
They did. They just walked
that.
out. You're right. Kung Fu CJ, thank you for your $2 again. That's right, Nicole. Lock their ass up. That's right. Carol Mathis again. Hi, Carol. Thank you for your $5 super chat. This is what happened when they took parents' rights away to tan kids' bottoms and the participation trophies and government splitting up parents. Yeah, good point,
Preach it,
Carol. Thank you.
Preach it, Carol. The destruction of the family.
Yep. All right, folks. Well, we will be back on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. All right. So again, don't forget to share this broadcast. Also, if you love us, you got to check out the other shows on the Metro Conservative Media platform. We have Just the Guys podcast. You just missed them on Saturday at Just the Guys podcast at 6:30 p.m. Support. Is it rigged? Check it out. They had an attorney on last Saturday who really broke it down and shed some light on a lot of things. So definitely check them out. That's at Just the Guys podcast every Saturday night at 6:30 p.m. All right. And then I'm on at KJ Christian Conservative. You can find me and Michelle at KJ Christian Conservative, where we break down all the news and pop culture from a biblical perspective. Folks, we were on fire on Sunday night. We broke down what's going on with Catholicism and Israel. All right. So we did a huge breakdown on that. Particularly talking about Candace Owens and Carrie Brajean Bowler at the Catholics for Catholics events that just passed. So definitely check it out. Let us know what you think at KJ Christian Conservative on YouTube. All right. So again, we will be back. Poppin' Politics will be back on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Until next time, count your blessings and live a life of purpose. Good night.
Good night.